Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk to you about something that has affected me over the years. I've been in business a long time now, but I wanted to talk to you guys today about, does your business actually stress you out? And I think it's a very relevant thing for me right now because the last few weeks have been quite stressful. It's so funny, Zoe that does all my podcast and editing and stuff. Like today, I just said to her, I said, I feel like I should be doing something else, like other than just this, because it's almost like you get addicted to stress. So like, the last few weeks, in particular this week, like I feel I've had a lot of stress. So the question I'm asking you is like, does your business stress the hell out of you? Like, do you waking up at 3 a.m. stressed? Do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel sometimes? Because today what I'm going to do is dive into why that actually happens, but more importantly, how to fix it. This one is for every woman out there, all you boss babes who, if you've ever felt overwhelmed, if you've ever felt exhausted and maybe dangerously close to chucking it in or chucking your laptop out the window, this one is for you guys. Hey, welcome to Wow Words of Wisdom. This is the podcast where we talk about all things mindset, all things confidence, and taking action, even when it feels scary. I'm Sharon McCaffrey, and if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. Your mindset shapes everything. The way you think, the way you show up, the way you go after what you really want, and it all starts in your head. So if you've ever felt stuck, doubted yourself, or wondered if you're really capable of more, you're in the right place. Each week, let's break through those mental blocks, shift your perspective, and start making things happen. I sat down and I've thought about this. I actually thought about this yesterday. I was on the train back from Dublin. I'd had a stressful day, a stressful week, and I sat down and I was thinking about all of this. And what I really want to cover today with you is like why your business is actually stressing you out, and it's not what you always think it is. Where is that stress actually coming from? What more importantly can you do to shift it both practically and energetically? And then I want to give you like some tools and reframes and I suppose my best advice from somebody that has lived it. But what I will promise you is that you'll leave this episode like, I hope, with a sense of clarity, a sense of calmness, and some concrete tools. So just, things that are going to help you to overcome, because I do think stress can, be inevitable when you are running a business. So firstly, I want to look at like why business feels stressful. I think, when I sit down and analyze it and look at it, I think it's because it's that uncertainty trap, isn't it? Like business doesn't come with a guaranteed paycheck. And for our nervous systems, and I know I ran a podcast that and thank you to all you viewers, almost went viral about the nervous system. So do check that one out if you haven't listened to it, because that will really help with the stress. So for our nervous system, it can be really terrifying, and that uncertainty. And especially if you grew up where money meant safety, or Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we crave safety. So we do, our bodies and our brains crave safety, but there's not a lot of as I said, certainty in running your own business. You're lacking that safety net. So really, like, for a lot of people, and if I even think for myself, like, you never really fully clock off. Like sometimes even if I'm just out for a walk, I'm actually like thinking about, like, maybe I see something, I think, oh, that could be an idea for my business, or if I could do that. And I'm always thinking, how can I make things better? So you never properly like clock off. Like, even I even find, like, when I go on holidays and stuff, it's like, we went away just this year gone by at Christmas for holidays, and that was the one time where I felt I could properly clock off, because of the fact that everyone else was off. But I feel like if I take a week off when everyone else is working, I'm just always checking my phone and stuff. And I am training myself like to not do that. So I think it does be hard to fully clock off. There's always more of that, you should be doing this. And I think as well, like, the results are unpredictable. Whatever industry you're in, like, as a business owner, you're in sales, whatever, whatever the product, whether it's a service, whether it's a commodity, and the results can be they can be just really unpredictable sometimes, and that we end up then basing things on the results. It can make you feel like you're always behind. So I think, like, running a business is a little bit like it's like sailing your own boat in open waters, with a weather app that keeps glitching. That's what it's really like. I think the other thing that can happen is like that, that comparison whole, you know, like most people now are like on social media, you see somebody's highlight reel and you compare it to your behind the scenes chaos. And, and of course that's going to spike your stress levels. I believe that scrolling, equals to you, like, you spiral down this rabbit hole. You question your path constantly. You create like that imposter syndrome, and that fuels the self doubt. And I always say comparison is the thief of joy, but I also think it's like the gateway to burnout, and I've had to unfollow some people on social media, um, and I've had to put certain chats on constant mute so that I don't stress myself out by comparing myself too much. And if you're following different, I always lean towards like on social media following people that are, going to make me feel motivated and inspired and stuff like that. But sometimes, obviously in social media we post the highlights and and what looks good, and I even find myself doing that too. And sometimes that can just make you feel bad. So just be mindful. So what I what I've become more aware of is that the people that I'm following, how are they making me feel? Are they making me feel inspired, motivated, or are they making me feel that I'm doing something wrong, I'm not good enough? And those are the ones that I'm choosing to unfollow. And you may need to do the same as well. The next part then is like the over giving and the over, delivering. Like, are you the type of person who says yes when you want to say no? You rewrite that one email like, 20 times. You're bending your boundaries all the time until you're like almost ready to snap. Like, people pleasing can be disguised as like good service. And I'm not going to shame my mother here or anything like that, but like, you know, I, I've learned from her like how to be a people pleaser, so I've had to be really, really strong willed in saying no. My mum will say yes to everyone and everything, and then get stressed out and not want to have to do something. So my natural disposition is to want to help and to not let people down. I find it hard. I do it now, but I find it hard to say no, because I do, as I said, like, I think I grew up in that environment where that was the done thing. And what happens in those cases then is like your energy just leaks all over the place, and then burnout then obviously becomes um inevitable. And there was a point in my business like where I answered emails and WhatsApp messages at, like 12 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, because I thought if I don't do that, these people will leave, or this sense of urgency that I need to get it done now or whatever. And what I realized is that like they left it anyway. I realized that like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, there's nothing that or even 10 o'clock at night, there's nothing that can't wait until the next morning. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to do at that time that's going to change the situation right now. And years ago, I set this boundary with myself of putting do not disturb on my phone, at 10 p.m. Part of the reason that I did was because like Stephen used to be getting annoyed at me, like, because I'd be lying in bed and my phone would be lighting up and beeping, and then I would be responding to the messages or whatever. And obviously that was impacting his sleep, it was impacting our downtime. And I made this decision then, I'm going to put it on do not disturb. And I set the time. I was going like, oh, maybe I'll do it at 11 o'clock at night, and then I'm gonna, and then I just thought like, no, like just make, because initially I was saying like 10, and then I thought, oh, maybe half 10, maybe 11. And then I just said, no, let's just do 10. Because after 10 o'clock, there's nothing that cannot wait until the morning. And if I'm being really honest, I was really, really freaked out in the beginning. But like, I had to just lean into it. And now, like, so it's on do not disturb from 10 p.m. at night until 7 a.m. the next morning. So I don't see any messages from anyone apart from there's a few people, like, my mum, Stephen, a few close friends and stuff. And those are the only ones whose messages will come through. My brother's only messages that will come through after 10 p.m. and before 7 p.m. if they ring me or drop me a message. And you can just go into your phone and you can set that setting. So otherwise I have to go in and look for a message, but it's not lighting up or whatever. And I found that was so, so beneficial to help me to, like, to switch off and to and unwind. And then, of course, then, there's the financial pressure. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When the rent or the mortgage is due and the bank account is looking bleak, of course, stress is going to become like your business partner. And what ends up happening then is like we lose our indifference. Our indifference is completely gone. We end up operating from survival, not from service, because we're desperate, and the creativity disappears. And the hustle mode, I suppose, overrides that joy. I think, like, the reframe has to be like your business. Yes, it needs to make money, but it doesn't need to cost you your sanity. And I always believe if you keep doing everything right, you do all the little things right, you'll get the result. But I think far too often we stress out about the result in opposed to the actual actions and the process that's required to get there. And then the other part as well, I suppose, is like the whole isolation of it. When you're the boss and you're the marketer, you're the customer service team, and you're the therapist, like it's a lot, and sometimes you want someone to say, you're doing amazing, babe. I do think working alone increases anxiety, and I think that's why it is so important to have mentors, and so important to, have your tribe, and people who understand, and coaches and stuff, because y- you need that sounding board. And I believe no sounding board means that self-doubt can spiral, particularly if you're going through a challenge, and no one sees your hard work. So I'm going to give you a little mini exercise. I want you to write a message to yourself from the future the one who made it. What would she say right now, so that you can be that little voice in your head until maybe you do find a coach, or your community, or your tribe. So I suppose all that stuff's all well and good, and you're probably sitting there going like, "Yes, Sharon, I know all of this stuff, and yes, that is happening to me." So I want to talk you through how you can adapt, and the mindset shifts that you need in order to be able to adapt. So the first thing is understand failure is feedback. You know, it isn't a red light; it's a road sign. It's a road sign to like where to tweak, where to learn. Try again. I always think to myself, "What is this teaching me?" Like every flop, every challenge, it teaches you something. So always ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Because the reason it's happening is that you have a skill gap there. And where your real freedom lies is in mastering that skill gap. And it will keep showing up until you master it. But the faster you fail, the quicker you will figure it out. Alex Hormozy talks about quick feedback loops. Okay. And remember, every time that you fail, you're not starting over, you're just starting again, wiser, a little bit further down the line. The other mindset shift then is understand you are not your income. Your bank account is not your worth. I need you to say that out loud. Results do not define you. Results come and go, they're up and down. Every business operates in cycles. I always look at it as like the spring, the summer, the autumn, and the winter. Your business will go through that cycle, not in line with the seasons of the year, but it will go through that cycle, like, regularly over the period of its lifetime. You will have periods where it feels like spring in your business, like new clients coming on board, new things happening. The summer where you're making like tons of money, lots of results, lots of abundance. Then the autumn where you're having to tighten the belt a little bit, and then winter where you're going like, oh my God, am I ever going to get out of this valley of despair? So I always ask myself, what cycle am I in? Where am I in the cycle now? Am I my spring, my summer, my autumn, or my winter? And that helps regulate my mind and keep my stress levels um low. The reason it's important to understand that is because your energy affects your income more than your actually effort does. So the more desperate you feel, the less magnetic you are. And I talked about that. I touched upon that in that episode about the nervous system. And then what you want to do is you just want to zoom out, right? You need perspective. Most of the stress you feel is generally about today. All right, and what's going on today. So zoom out and remember this is one moment in a long, incredible journey, and I think perspective is such an amazing thing. And I'll give you a bit of an example. Like the other day I was stressing out about some stuff, and then I saw this couple walking by hand in hand, and both of them were blind. And I'm going like, I can see, I've got a great life. And it just gave me that perspective of it. Like the stuff that I'm stressing about is not really that relevant in the greater scheme of things. And one of the things I learned to do, and I've talked about it on here, on numerous occasions is to help me with perspective is to get a gratitude journal. And I remember, reading lots about like, oh, gratitude journal is one of the best things you can do, um to help with your mindset and your life and and everything and and I remember I never really got it. And I got a gratitude journal and I would write down the three things every day that I should be grateful for. But I didn't understand how this was going to change my business and my life and, you know, create abundance for me and do all that. I just didn't understand. And I would, start it and I would stop it and I'd throw it away and then I'd start it back up again or whatever. But the last time that I done it, and I'm talking like it's probably 5, 6 years ago now. I said I'm going to stick at this rather than just trying it for a few weeks. I said I'm going to stick at it, and what I realized was that where the real change was, but it changed my perspective. And in changing my perspective, it has helped me grow my business. It has helped me grow my income because now I look at things very differently, and I can do that zooming out ball and just zooming in on today. So, in opposed to just so first and foremost, get some sort of a diary or something every day. Write down three things that you're grateful for, and there'll be days that you have to dig deep. But what it's going to teach you is perspective, and that perspective you will be able to use in your business when you're going through a challenge or a stressful time. And then what I want you to do is look at your 6 month and 1 year goals rather than just like today and this week. Focus on growth, not perfection. Daily stress loses power when when you're looking at the bigger picture. The other thing then is like understanding that your boundaries create safety. Every yes you give from obligation is a no to your peace. Okay. So you want to learn to establish time boundaries, energy boundaries, like who are you actually spending your time with, emotional boundaries. So stop taking everything personally. I used to do that quite a bit. So I did when somebody would like, criticize me. And how you know you're doing it is listen for the but. So when somebody would give me feedback, I go, yeah, but, which means that I was taking it actually personally. So how I look at it now is that I can't control my first thought, but I can control my second thought. So when somebody gives me feedback, and it's so funny because Zoe was giving me feedback last night about like actually stuff to do with the podcast, and my initial first thought was like, yeah, but then I went like. That was my first thought, but my second thought was like, no, this is good feedback, and now I need to take it on board. And what can I learn from this? And I took a second and I paused and I analyzed the information and then went back, from a different perspective rather than taking it emotionally. The other thing you want to do to adapt is like simplify everything. Like I think complication breeds chaos and clarity creates calm. So what you want your objective to be is to focus just on one thing. So whether that's one offer, one message, one platform, whatever, like until you master that or until you get it right. So let's say maybe you're doing in your business, you want to change something up or whatever. Don't try to change a whole load of things at once because then you don't know what's working and what's not working. Focus on one thing, get that right. I always think of what's the one thing that's going to move the needle forward the most for me right now. And then my goal is to focus on that. And then when I've done that, then I'll move to something else. And then to sort of, revisit what we spoke about the other day on, the nervous system, you do want to support your nervous system. I'm not going to go into the whole episode here, but just to give you some like, top line tips. You can't out strategize a dysregulated body. So practice breath work. I've been practicing it more and more now than I did in the past, and I really feel it calms me down. And some of the breath work I do is the box breathing. So that's like breathe for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, in for 4. And then the other one that calms you down is breathe in for 4 and out for 7. So the breath out is longer than what's in. That actually calms you down. I find that very beneficial if I'm going through maybe a little bit about like, something has happened or whatever. Think like, okay, let's just take a minute and let's breathe. And magnesium spray before bed is really good for your nervous system. Nature daily. I have no excuses that when I'm getting out in nature. So I am, even if it's just like a 5 minute walk. Like I came back from Dublin last night late, missed my train. And I still took my dog for a walk, even though it was only 10 minutes, because I just need it. And I don't bring my phone with me. Well, that's a lie. I bring my phone sometimes, all right? If I do need to do like a little bit of work or catch up on some messages, whatever, but I will still, if I do that on one walk in the day, I'll make a point later that day of going out without my phone, because I want to regulate my nervous system, and feel having my phone on me all the time when I go for a walk is kind of defeating the purpose. Then this has been a really hard one for me, like no phone 1 hour before bed. And what I done to counteract that is like, I remember reading it said put your phone in another room. I just feel like I would have too much. I think I would have attachment anxiety if I put it in another room. Anyway, but what I've done is I plug it in and charge it at the far end of the room, the socket at the far end of the room, and I put it there on airplane mode, so it's not lighting up and I'm not getting distracted. And I actually have to get out of my bed to go to get it, so it's keeping me away. Putting it on airplane mode actually helps with minimizing the Wi-Fi and stuff like that, which can actually interact with or interfere with your sleep. And then I'd be lying if I didn't say that I do watch a little bit of TV. Normally, myself and Stephen will normally have a little show on the go, and we watch one episode normally before we go to bed. So I bought blue light blocking glasses on Amazon, and I wear those. So I do just in the wind down before nighttime. I also have all the red lights, the blue light cut out on all my technology or whatever after a certain time. You can go into settings on your phones and laptops and do that too. So, some practical tools then to de-stress your business. And, the first one is like that weekly reset. Look at what went well. We can always be really hard on ourselves and focus on what didn't go well, but like what went well, what felt off, what can I change? As I said earlier on, I think about what is one thing I can do to move the needle forward this week. So each morning I always ask, what do I need today to feel calm? What do I need to do to feel creative and clear? So I always say something for the body, mind, and soul. I think about that every day. What can I do today for my body? So some form of movement. What can I do for my mind? Is that something I'm reading? Is it something I'm listening to? And what can I do for my soul? Something that makes me feel good. If that's a walk in nature with my dog, it might be going for a coffee with a friend. Whatever it is, try to do those 3 things every day. So as I said, that daily drop in, whether it's a walk, maybe it's the hard conversation you need to have with somebody, and maybe it's just rest. And then the other thing I want you to do, this is something I've done, and I've done it for a while, over the last few years, and I've found it really, really calming. Create a calm corner for yourself. I don't care where it is, whether it's in your house or in your office. I have one in my house, and it's like, I have my chair. Stephen keeps wanting to try. Well, he's actually succeeded now in getting another chair for the corner. It just arrived today. But it's still my calm corner. And what I have there is like I have my journal, I have a candle, I have like a cushion, I have some crystals, and but it's also in a corner where the sun is coming in as well. And I'm not saying it doesn't have to be a fancy corner or whatever. I know you're sitting there going, Sharon, I don't have a corner or whatever. Just find a little space that's your space. And what I do is in the morning, that's where I sit and I have my coffee and I write my journal. Or if I'm reading, I do it there. If I want a few minutes to myself, I will sit there. If I want to do a meditation, I will sit there. And then before I go to bed at night, that's where I sit as well. Alfie will normally, my dog will sit in my lap, and I just take a few minutes to myself, and I just think it just declutters your brain and calms your whole nervous system down. Maybe in the office, it's maybe you've got a corner where you've got screenshots of clients' wins. Maybe it's funny memes, maybe favorite quotes. Print them, pin them. Look at them daily. Whatever it is for you, but something that's going to calm you um down. And then the other thing then is I think you need a business bestie check in. And what I mean by that is like have someone in your life who gets it. Even if it's just one person, somebody that you can message, somebody that you can celebrate the tiny wins with, and maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's a coach that you pay for. I don't know, maybe for me. Like, I'm very fortunate that within my industry, like I have a lot of mentors that I can check in with and stuff, and I feel that has always kept me calm. But also, Stephen is a businessman, and he really calms me when I'm stressed, and he also helps me to have that perspective. So if something stressful's going on, I would text him and ring him if I'm away, and I go, "Oh, this has just happened," and he will always, calm me down. So I think it's important that you have that go-to person, whoever it is, but just somebody that you know. They're going to have a positive conversation or a reframe with you, in opposed to like, "Oh, you need to quit this and you're wasting your time," or whatever. That's not that's not going to benefit you. The other thing you can do then is like to have like business planning for your energy. So don't just plan your goals, plan how you want to feel, you know, while you're hitting them, because feeling is everything. So it is. So what I want you to do is like choose two or three core feelings for the month. Well, that's like maybe you want to feel calm, you want to feel open, you want to feel, bold, and then build habits that are going to reinforce those, and then track how you feel, not just what you want to do. I have enough self-awareness now that I think to myself, how are things making me feel? And if something's not making me feel good, then I don't want to repeat that. And then, move your body to shift your mind. All right. So I always think action is like what shifts like how you're feeling. So for me, like, it might be, if I'm at home and taking Alfie for a walk, for you, maybe it's like, maybe it's a good shakeout, maybe it's doing like, what do you call it, jumping jacks, but you want to move the emotion through rather than storing it. Every week, I go to Pilates, so I do over a shout out to Kira in Form in Maherfeld. It's like my little safe space, and it's like I just feel real zen, but I'm also going like I'm getting a workout, but I'm like actually stretching my body, and I feel that I'm moving my body, but it's also at the end of the week, and I feel like I'm allowing the emotion to move through my body and get rid of it rather than storing it. And then, guys, just to finish up, remember you started your business to be free, not to be like fried. All right. So remember, it's not business that's stressing you out, it's the pressure that you're putting on yourself. So stress is a signal, it's not a sentence. You are allowed to succeed and feel good. So let go of the guilt. And this has probably been one of the hardest things I've um I've had to do, or one of the hardest things that to let go of is the guilt for me. As I said to you, like, y- going on a holidays, like at Christmas, the first time I didn't feel guilty because lots of people were off. But again, I'm training my brain all the time with this stuff. So a few things that I want you to do before we finish up. I want you to re-listen to the episode on the nervous system, and if you haven't listened to it, please do listen to it, because not for my views, but I do think it will really, really benefit you. And then, I want you to start journaling, like if you're not journaling throughout your day, and journaling doesn't have to be, I used to think it had to be like me writing pages and pages. It's not. It's just how you're feeling, what were the wins, and, what are you grateful for today. Finally, what I want you to do is share this with someone in business who needs to hear it. If you feel it resonated with you, I would really appreciate it, if you shared it. And then, please do DM me your favorite takeaways. Like, I read them all, and I love to seeing that, like, that this stuff is actually helping people. So just to sign off, breathe. You've got this. And on the days like that, that you feel that you don't, then please come back to this episode and let me remind you.